We live in an age of endless information. Courses, books, podcasts, tutorials, masterclasses, million-dollar mentors, infinite advice. And yet people are still broke, still lost, still unfulfilled, still scrolling through motivation, thinking that knowing is the same as growing. But here's the truth. Most won't say out loud. Knowledge doesn't make you rich. Action does. Because knowledge is potential. Action is power. You can know every wealth principle. You can quote every thought leader. You can memorize every success strategy ever written and still fail, still be stuck, still be the most insightful person in the room who doesn't own the room. Because information isn't transformation. It's only the invitation. You don't get paid for what you know. You get paid for what you do with what you know. You get rewarded not for theory, but for implementation. This is the separation, the line between the talkers and the doers. Talkers say, I know that. Doers say, I live that. Talkers consume content. Doers create momentum. Talkers collect ideas. Doers collect results. Talkers think learning is progress. Doers understand. Learning without execution is spiritual entertainment. You can sit in seminars all year. You can fill journals with breakthroughs. You can be inspired every day of your life and still build nothing. Because action is the great separator. It's what builds the gap between potential and power, between motivation and mastery, between poverty and prosperity. The world doesn't pay you for your insights. It pays you for your impact. And impact requires movement, clarity, courage, commitment. That's why your life doesn't change when you hear something new. Your life changes when you do something different. And that's the real gap most never cross. They fall in love with consuming. They get addicted to information. They scroll, swipe, save, nod their heads and say, wow, but never move. They confuse stimulation for strategy. They chase the high of knowledge without building the habit of doing. And every day that passes without action is another day you've trained yourself to live on pause. Another day you've reinforced hesitation. Another day you've told your nervous system, thinking about change is the same as creating it. It's not. Change has never been about what you know. It's always been about what you practice. Because you don't rise to the level of your education. You rise or fall to the level of your execution. Every insight not applied becomes weight. It becomes pressure. It becomes guilt and regret and noise in your head that says, you should be further by now. And that voice, it's not wrong. You should be further because you've known better. You've read the books. You've taken the notes. You've sat in the silence and heard your calling echo inside you. But knowing better has never been the problem. Doing better is. Doing when it's inconvenient. Doing when no one claps. Doing when doubt is loud. Doing when no one is watching. Doing when you're tired or sore or scared. Doing when the outcome isn't guaranteed, but your standard is. Because the difference between the rich and the broke isn't access to information. It's the discipline to act on what they know. And not just act once, but act consistently, ruthlessly, relentlessly. While others are thinking, they're building. While others are analyzing, they're applying. While others are hesitating, they're moving one imperfect step at a time. Because success doesn't reward the best theory. It rewards the boldest action. And boldness isn't something you're born with. It's a habit. It's something you train when you stop negotiating with fear. When you stop hiding behind, I need more time, or I'm still researching. When you stop pretending that preparation is progress. Preparation without action is just procrastination with a halo. And you don't need more prep. You need more execution. Because the cost of inaction is not just delay, it's decay. Your gifts decay. Your confidence decays. Your clarity decays. Your identity decays until one day you forget what it even felt like to move with certainty. And now you don't just lack results, you lack belief. That's what hesitation does. It doesn't just steal time, it steals who you could have become. But you can take it back, not by reading another book, not by watching another motivational clip, but by deciding right now that from this moment forward, you will not measure your growth by what you learn. You will measure it by what you do, because action is the only metric that matters. It's the only thing that builds skill. It's the only thing that creates momentum. It's the only thing that changes identity. It's the only thing that turns potential into proof. So act. While others think, act. While others stall, act. While others wait, act. And keep acting until the noise goes quiet, until doubt fades, until your feet move faster than your fear, until you look up one day and realize, I did not just learn this life. I built it, one action at a time. Because when you finally commit to action as a lifestyle, not an event, not a moment of motivation, not a phase, you begin to experience a new kind of power. A power that doesn't ask for permission. A power that doesn't wait for confirmation. A power that doesn't check the weather, the algorithm, or the applause. You become the cause, not the effect. You stop waiting for the conditions to be right because you understand conditions don't create creators. Creators create in spite of conditions. They move when the plan is fuzzy. They move when the critics are loud. They move when the market is unstable. They move because movement is their medicine, their message to the world that says, I don't need certainty. I need action. Because action breeds clarity. Action reveals character. Action sharpens direction. You don't discover who you are by sitting and thinking. You discover who you are by stepping into the unknown again and again and realizing you didn't die, you didn't break, you didn't disappear. You adapted. You grew. You became bolder, louder, sharper, clearer. And suddenly the knowledge you once stored in books and notebooks and highlights becomes muscle memory. You don't need to remind yourself of the lessons anymore. You are the lesson. Because action has written it into your DNA. You speak with weight not because of what you've read, but because of what you've lived. And the world feels it. People may not know what changed in you, but they can feel it. In your presence, in your posture, in your decisions, in your pace. Because people who live in action don't move like the rest of the world. They don't flinch. They don't fold. They don't fantasize. They build. They execute while others envy. They deliver while others discuss. They show up while others shrink. And their results are loud not because they talk about them, but because they no longer have to. Because here's what most people forget. The world listens to results, not excuses, not theories, not potential. Results. And results only come to those who move. So the question becomes, what are you delaying? What do you keep learning about but never living? What dream have you kept in theory? Because action would make it real. Because real is scary. Real means you might fail. Real means people might see you lose. Real means no more hiding behind one day is where the rewards are. Real is where the freedom is. Real is where the wealth is. Real is where the life is. So stop aiming for perfect. Start aiming for proof. Because done is better than dreamed. Action is better than anticipation. And movement, even messy, is better than standing still. You will learn more by doing in one day than by thinking for a year. You will grow faster by executing the wrong plan than by perfecting the right one you never start. And you will build the life you say you want, not through intention, but through initiation. So initiate. Now, before you feel ready, before you're 100% certain, before the voice in your head talks you back into safety. Because action silences the voice. Action shuts down self-doubt. Action says to your fear, you had your time. I have work to do. And that's when everything shifts. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You stopped waiting. You stopped preparing. You stopped thinking about who you could be and started becoming it. And the distance between who you are and who you want to be, it's not measured in knowledge. It's measured in steps. So take one right now. Take the step that feels uncomfortable. Take the step that breaks your pattern. Take the step that doesn't guarantee applause, but guarantees growth. Because every step you take becomes evidence. And evidence becomes belief. And belief becomes momentum. And momentum, that's where the real acceleration happens. You don't need motivation when momentum takes over. You don't need pep talks when you've tasted progress. You don't need to be pushed when your own results start pulling you forward. But you won't get there by waiting. You won't get there by journaling about your potential. You won't get there by watching someone else live the life you've been dreaming of. You get there by starting and then not stopping. Because once you take one step, your next job is to take another and another and another until action is no longer a task. It's your identity. Because the person who builds wealth, freedom, power, peace, that person isn't more gifted than you. They just out-executed you. They weren't more worthy. They were just more willing to move without certainty. And that willingness, that's what you train. Every time you choose action over anxiety, every time you choose execution over excuses, every time you choose to start before you feel like it, you build that muscle. And that muscle compounds, it builds posture. You start walking taller, speaking clearer, deciding faster, leading without needing confirmation. Because now you don't need to be told what to do. You know what to do. You've lived it. You've earned it. You've felt it in your bones. And nothing, no comment, no setback, no delay can take that from you. You are no longer an observer of action. You are the source of it. You are the one others now watch. You are the one who moves first. You are the one who doesn't explain, doesn't overthink, doesn't wait for someone else to take the lead. You are the leader, and the leader always acts. Not because they're fearless, but because they refuse to be ruled by fear. Not because they're certain, but because they trust their capacity more than their conditions. Not because they're lucky, but because they built momentum while others waited for miracles. That's the edge. That's the gap. That's the reason 99% stay spectators while 1% step into stages, onto platforms, into power. Not because of what they knew, but because of what they did. So what will you do? Will you keep collecting information? Will you keep stacking knowledge? Will you keep convincing yourself that next